Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. Glad you guys are here. There's a few things I want to talk about in spring practices, but first I want to wait for everybody to kind of jump on. Zach is here, so I appreciate you jumping on as well. If you have any questions or comments, definitely do that in the chat. And if you haven't yet, hit the like button if you like this series, if you like the streams, and subscribe to the channel. We're getting really close to 12,000 subscribers, which is crazy to me, just thinking about how much support in the last year has happened. So there's a few things. First off, I want to make sure the chat is working and then make sure everything's good to go on audio before we get this thing rolling, but I definitely want to get into it really quickly. I'm planning on going for about 30 minutes tonight, just a live stream, talk about the quarterbacks, talk about spring ball, 9 practices in, 6 left. There's some things to get to with that. Obviously, plenty of hot topics to talk about. Appreciate everybody watching those 10 takeaways that I've been able to do. Glad you guys like that. So let's kind of get right into it. One of the things I want to talk about with the quarterbacks, and this is why I'd like for you guys to jump in, and I'll go ahead and ask people as they jump on, is all 3 quarterbacks are set to speak to the reporters after practice tomorrow, which is Tuesday. It'll be the 10th practice, and I think it's going to be great. Tyler Van Dyke has already talked to the media, but it'll be the first time people will hear from Jake Garcia since he's been at UM, and then Peyton Matocha will talk as well. So one of the things I'm doing this for is because if there's things you'd like to have answered, topics you would like to have discussed, maybe questions you would like to ask the quarterbacks, go ahead and drop below. Definitely let me know what you think in terms of things you'd like to hear about. Again, Tyler's talked early in the spring. It's been a few weeks. They've had a scrimmage since then. They're going to have their second scrimmage later this week, and there'll be plenty of coverage on that on Inside the U. And then also spring game, as you guys know, is on April 17th. So spring is just wrapping up quickly. But there's been a lot to talk about, and I just want to do this live stream. I have not done one of these in a while, but I know there's a lot of people that do like this. So definitely drop in the comments, definitely right there. And I'll be sure to check those out as we go along. Another thing I want to get to is I do have a merchandise pinned right now. The Inside the U shirt. I have one on right now if you guys want to show your support. And also I got a $5 off promo code that'll be good through Tuesday. It's QB5 off on the store, and you can find that right there below on the channel. Click on that, go to the Inside the U store if you want to show your support that way. That's always a huge help with the merchandise, hoodies, t-shirts, things like that. So I've got the beach tee on. So anyways, let's get back into the quarterback discussion. Once again, all 3 guys will get to talk. Also, head coach Manny Diaz is slated to talk on Tuesday as well. We've not heard from him for a few days, so it'll be good to hear from him as well. And as you guys know, if you've been following along, it's been about a week since they've practiced. They got a few days off, so that was good. Just to kind of reset for these final 6 practices. And I know a lot of guys are looking forward to closing it out strong, which will certainly be important at some key position battles. Let's right before we get into the questions with the quarterback, let's go with Chung. Has a question about what 5 guys start at offensive line against Alabama. You know what? I think this is a good question. I think it's a great question, great topic. And I think the way it's shaken out, I think you're going Zion Nelson left tackle, and I think Jared Williams is going to hold off DJ Scaife at right tackle. So those are my 2 tackles who I think at center will be Corey Gaynor, Navon Donaldson at right guard, and then at left guard, I do think Ja'Kai Clark will get that first crack. I know Jalen Rivers is really pushing for that spot. I just think, Ja'Kai with experience, I think for that first game against Alabama, I could see him starting over Jalen, but I think that's going to be a battle that is going to be ongoing throughout the season. Kind of like last year in the sense where John Campbell came out early, won the job over Zion, and then Zion ended up taking from him and started most of the games last season at left tackle. I think you could see something like that similar if Ja'Kai doesn't play well, but I do think he'll get that first crack at it. Once again, that's even though Jalen Rivers is playing well in the spring, making a lot of impact plays and doing well, showing a great improvement. And he's got a little bit, he's got a little bit to prove. Jalen after last year didn't play much. So those are my 5. It's all about the U. What's going on? Glad you're here. Nick Daniels is here. Any possibility that QB1 can play first game? Can or can't? I think that all signs point to De'Aaron King is playing in that game. The coaches are saying he's ahead of schedule. They do believe he's going to play in that game. So I think that's the question you're asking. Now, if there's a chance he won't play, I do think that there's a chance that he won't, even though nobody's saying that. I'm just looking at the timetable, everything, just to be ready for that game. Essentially 9 months later after an ACL injury, you never know as it gets closer. So I think there's a chance. That's why I think this spring is so important, particularly for Tyler Van Dyke. And definitely let's talk about quarterbacks now as we move along after talking about offensive line. Once again, if you're just joining in, all three quarterbacks are slated to talk to the media tomorrow. It'll be the second time for Tyler Van Dyke, first time for Jake Garcia, first time for Peyton Matocha. If you have questions that you would like to see asked during the media sessions, definitely drop in the comments. Let me know. Maybe some topics that aren't being discussed. There's so much that we have discussed, but maybe there's certain things that you would like to know, maybe hear from the quarterbacks about certain things. Definitely drop in the comments during the chat right now, or if you want to post to the video, you can certainly do that as well. I will definitely be checking all the comments for that, because once again, our job as reporters is to give you guys as much information as possible. So if there are questions you have, I definitely want to do my best to answer those and relay messages from the players and coaches to you guys the best I can. Again, on InsideTheU.com and through this channel as well. Let's go. What else we got? Chung, another question. I think Jakai starts, but I think Jalen could take it anytime. I'm with you. That's exactly how I see it. Once again, I think, and it's nothing to slight on Jalen, because I think he really is pressing for that. I just think if we're talking about first game, I'm going to go ahead and give the edge to Jakai, but I think he's got to play well, rest of this spring and summer, because Jalen's coming, and I think he definitely can push for that spot at, like you said, at any time. And you're definitely correct. I definitely agree with you there. Okay. It's all about first off, there's no such thing as dumb question, but is that a green screen? Yeah, that is. I'm not really at the football offices, but hopefully you guys like it. And not a dumb question. Kyle Walker, what's going on? Isaiah, yeah, he's available this year. I just, I know people are excited about Isaiah. I just don't think he's right in that mix. We're not hearing about him really pressing for that starting spot. I think it's those 7 guys I mentioned. I think those are the 7 that they're really looking at. And, we'll see if there's other guys that emerge. Isaiah just has to have a strong, off-season, spring, summer, fall, the whole thing. He's got to really put it together, because he didn't do as much. He didn't have very many reps last season during practices. Obviously, he didn't play, but even practices, he didn't have as many reps in terms of his development. Still a guy to watch for in the future. I just don't think the future is now for him right now. Sean, yep, shake up on the O-line. That could definitely happen. Glad to hear, Sean Rounds. Appreciate you jumping in. And yeah, Chung wants to know about Rhett Lashley, Matocha as an option formation. Yeah, he's definitely that guy that can do that. He definitely has those skills. Those are his, what he brings to the table as a multidimensional quarterback. I just think that what they're going to do is, as long as De'Eric is there, he's going to, take control and take all the reps. I think what you're saying is, look, if De'Eric's not out there, then what's going to happen? I think there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of things to decide if he's not able to be out there at any point during the season, but especially in that first game. And I think, maybe there is a spot for Peyton to be able to provide something different, because all 3 quarterbacks that we're talking about tonight with, Tyler Van Dyke, Jake Garcia, and then Peyton, I think all 3 of those guys bring something different to the table. Tyler's that, strong arm quarterback, bigger in the pocket, bigger guy, sits in the pocket, more of a pocket passer, although he does feel like he can run. And some players have actually said, he can run a little bit more than what you would think. Jake Garcia, again, pocket guy. One thing that comes out to me with him, he's showing some improvising skills in practice, and I think that's a good sign too, some creativity. So that's good for the young guy, feeling confident in that. And then Peyton, again, ran for a bunch of yards in high school, has a little bit more mobility than the other 2, but certainly he's looking to throw the ball as well. And again, if there's any questions you guys have about those guys specifically, drop in the comments. Definitely want to get to some things tomorrow. And definitely stay locked in on the channel. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, because all 3 quarterbacks are talking, and Manny Diaz, it's going to be great to get his take on all 3 of those guys. And curious to see how those guys, answer questions, maybe some things that are standing out to them in spring ball, things they're looking at. I'm very curious. I'm curious what Jake Garcia thought about his scrimmage performance, because he was a guy that was slowed in the spring with his injury, plays in the scrimmage, does well based on the numbers that we've gotten. and just kind of curious to see what he thinks about how he's doing, maybe some adjustment that he's having there. And then also Peyton. Peyton's not spoken to the media, so it'll be interesting to see how he does in an interview setting, how he presents himself. It's always interesting at quarterback. I find it interesting to see, just their personalities the best we can through interviews. So definitely looking forward to those interviews tomorrow. You definitely got to make sure you stay locked into that. I'll get those videos up to you guys as quickly as I can. Make sure you guys get all the content you can. And then also, if there's other questions, Manny Diaz, maybe there's topics we're not getting to. I know I asked him the other day about running backs. We've not gotten a big update from him about how the running game is doing. So, and one thing he said he wanted to see how the scrimmage went. So, very curious to see what he thinks about where the running game is right now. Just a reminder, second scrimmage will be later this week. And then the third scrimmage, which will be the spring game, is on the 17th. So 3 practices this week is what the plan is. Okay, what else do we got here? Okay, Benjamin, for Jake Garcia, has it been drastic change in competition from high school to Miami, or not as bad as? That's a great question, Benjamin. I'll be sure. Hopefully that gets asked tomorrow, and if not, I'll make sure to ask it. That's a great question. I appreciate you dropping in. I'm going to definitely jot that down, make sure that gets asked. So I appreciate that. Sean Rounds, we can't keep relying on experienced guys that can't get the job done. You know what, Sean? And I know that's a topic that it's not just at one position. I know wide receiver people want to jump to that one. But what I'm seeing and what I kind of think is happening, I think that they're willing. It sounds like it at least. It sounds like if guys aren't producing, they will move on to different options. I think one position in particular, and I have talked about this, I do think Corey Flagg is going to take that spot from Bradley Jennings. Jennings, a guy with a lot more experience, started all the games last year at that spot, but it just seems like Corey Flagg is really going to take that over. As far as wide receivers, we will see how things go at wide receiver. I think scrimmages, constant performances, off-season workouts, I think that's position still yet to be determined, because I think they want to see these young guys. They want to see how they perform. They want to see if they can outperform the older guys, and scrimmages are a great opportunity to do that. Keyshawn Smith is a guy to definitely keep an eye on throughout spring, summer, fall, as a guy that tries to leapfrog the older guys. So, and certainly the other guys too. Michael Redding talked to the media. He's trying. He took a bubble screen 30 yards in the last scrimmage. A good sign for him. So these guys are trying to make plays, and I think the coaches are waiting and seeing. Like, look, let's see what you guys got and see if these young guys can actually make a difference. I think that there's the 2 positions. I think another hot topic that I want to get to is Avonte Williams having a very good spring, it sounds like. And I think he is definitely one of those young guys. Can he leapfrog the experienced guys? Amari Carter's back for another year. He's played a ton of games at Miami. Gervin Hall's played a lot, started a lot. Can Avonte, with his athleticism, playmaking ability, leapfrog both of those guys on the depth chart? I think that'll be interesting to watch for. Again, nothing needs to be decided on early April. They have the 6 practices still left. They have all summer to prove themselves in the workouts, and then the fall practices a full month before they actually have to make that decision to start against Alabama. But also they have the full season. So just because a guy, maybe an experienced guy, starts the opener, which wouldn't surprise me, maybe younger guys can really emerge with their play. You got to excel in your roles, special teams, seconds, maybe you're in that second group, whatever it might be, you've got to excel and do well. And that's the thing about the scrimmages. I think sometimes you see maybe some of the reserves have good numbers and you're wondering, okay, but who are they going against? I don't think it matters. I think you've got to produce. I think that's what matters. If you're on that second group, you're going against a second or third unit, you've got to produce. Be the best guy on the field, win your matchup one-on-one, whatever position group that is. And I think that's the key. And they're trying to keep track of everything as they decide. JMR1, I want to make sure I get to your question. I just see it before it scrolls up. I apologize for almost missing it. So yes, 6 total practices left. Miami's done 9. They're going to do 15 total. They've had 1 scrimmage of the 9 so far, and then they've got 2 scrimmages still left. So they'll go with 3 this spring, and the third one being the spring game. Hopefully that answers your question. I apologize for the confusion there. Okay. Yeah, it's all about you. Keyshawn, definitely want that going. Okay, Gooseman's here. Guzman Chris, you should ask about the young safeties will get a chance to play. I think Avante is doing all the right things. And I think what stands out to me, it's not just the athleticism, and that's great. He's flying around, but there's two things that stand out to me that I think is a good sign for Avante making that leap to maybe earning the playing time over older guys. One, his passion for the game. He seems to pick it up really well, really enjoys playing the game. Players are saying that, coaches are saying that. I think that's a great sign. Number two, you are hearing about him being a hard worker and that he picks up on things quickly in terms of playbook, things like that. I think those are two great signs moving forward for him as he challenges. Again, it's not just that he's fast or he can make plays or tackles. I think it's those other two things that are key for him, because we've seen guys that are physically talented, that can run, they don't get on the field for whatever reason. But I think the two things that Avante's bringing to the table that I just mentioned is what's going to help him with that. So what else do we got here? Benjamin, do we think any of the late enrollees make immediate impact in the Bama game? Yes, Benjamin. I think James Williams and Leonard Taylor, two guys that coming in later, I think they will make an impact in that game. Now, how many plays will they play? Whatever it might be, even if it's only like 20, even if it's only on special teams. I know Leonard special teams isn't as big of a deal as where James could make plays there. I just think whatever role they're in early, whatever role they're in at all during their freshman season, I think they're going to make plays. It's going to be up to the coaches to decide how much they want to use them. But I think they are both the real deal. Believe the hype. I like both of those guys. I've liked them in high school. They continue to get better. Even with being highly regarded when they were younger, it just kind of every year they've gotten better. I think that's a great sign for a high school prospect. Okay, we're about halfway through here. Again, I want to go only about 30 minutes tonight. I'm going to wrap this up around 9 o'clock. So definitely get the questions in. And like I said, quarterbacks are talking. And I think it's going to be good to get some answers that you guys might have. Okay, Sean wants to know, I think at some point we have to show that we can develop and put kids in place to be successful. There's no doubt. And I think they've got the opportunity to do that, specifically with the two guys I just mentioned, with Leonard Taylor and James Williams. But I definitely think that you're going to see that with Avante Williams. What will they be able to develop with him? Can they make him an impact player earlier? And then also, you want these guys to be really top of the line type guys when they're at Miami, when they're competing at the college level, and not just be kind of in that average mold. And also, I think a lot of people want to see the recruits. They want to see this coaching staff develop recruits, play them, and really get better that way. It's been great having those transfers come in, but I know some people don't take a lot of credit or don't feel like that's the best way to build a program, and everybody can agree or disagree with that. But I certainly do think that there's a sense of, okay, let's develop some young guys, regardless of the position, kind of make it feel like they're Miami's guys, they're Coach Diaz's guys in that sense, and really get the most out of them. Chung, there's no doubt about Bama. Yeah, Miami knows they're underdogs, so we'll see if it fuels them all summer, and we'll see how it goes, because they certainly are underdogs, especially with the way last year went against better opponents. What else do we got? Zebras here. Will King be the starter? As lack of reps hurt in the Bama game? Yeah, I touched on that. I do think De'Eric will start the opener. And that's because that's what the coaches are saying. They feel like he's ahead of schedule. De'Eric works really hard with his rehab and whatnot. Not only do they think he's going to start, but they think he's going to be able to participate in fall practices. I'm not as concerned about the reps leading up to that game because he's an experienced guy. He's played a lot of football and very similar personnel as last year. So if it was different, if there were different players, different coaches in place, if De'Eric wasn't as experienced, I'd be a little bit more concerned about the practice time. But I think if he's got a week or two to really get ready, I think that's enough time. And I'm not saying he's going to go out there and have a huge game, but in terms of just being able to play, because De'Eric's got a lot to prove as well. The whole offense does in general in that game, because again, based on how things went last year at times. New starting tight end. Yeah, that's one. But he has worked with Will Mallory last year. So again, it's similar personnel as last year. I think maybe the only new guy is Charleston Rambo. But again, Charleston's the guy that that he's played a lot as well. So he has a lot of experience. So one guy essentially into the mix. And, we'll see if the young receivers are there as well. And that regardless if De'Eric participates in fall practice, it's just going to take a little bit of time with those younger guys in general, if they are out there. Daniel, what's going on? Any players or signees we're concerned are looking to transfer out? Yeah, I think there could be some guys. I think if we're going to talk about a position, I think just keep an eye on the wide receiver position just because there's so many guys. But I think that they're definitely feeling like they can make an impact or definitely get in there. But if they're starting to fall back, I think you could see some wide receivers look to find a better spot elsewhere. Because again, just a reminder, a bunch of guys on campus now, but 3 more are coming in the summer with Romello Brinson, Brashard Smith, and Jacoby George. So 3 guys still coming in. Chung, this doesn't have to do with the quarterback. So what production are you expecting from DeAndre Johnson? I'm very curious to hear more about him. And that might be something I ask Manny Diaz about tomorrow, to be honest with you, because I know he's going to be asked about the quarterbacks. But we have not heard much about DeAndre Johnson this spring, almost to the point where we're just trying to get confirmation that he's actually been out there. And, so we'll find out more about that tomorrow. I definitely want to get to that. And, so that might be what I asked. So definitely check that out tomorrow. But if he's out there, if he's playing, we'll find out more about how he's doing. As far as production, I don't think he's going to be as productive as those other guys from last year. We'll see what kind of impact he can make. But one thing that gets mentioned quite a bit is it's a good defense for the defensive ends to perform well in. And I know DeAndre, when he talked at the beginning of the spring, he was very excited about being in this defense, playing at home in front of hometown fans and stuff. So he's excited to be at Miami. So and then just real quick, a huge shout out to Chugmo Beer. He's been a great supporter of the channel. He's dropped in that super chat donation a while ago, still holding steady. As you can see on the channel, it shows the last person to donate to the super chat. So if anybody wants to do that, definitely appreciate it. You can hit that $. Also, just a reminder, jump on it. If you want to buy, maybe support the channel, but you can buy the shirts available or a hoodie. And for those people jumping on, there's a promo code for $5 off every item. It's QB5 off is the promo code. So check that out through Tuesday. Give you guys a chance on a discount. So if you want to show your support that way, I definitely appreciate it. Once again, I've got the Inside the U Beat shirt on. There's different colors, all kinds of stuff. So definitely check those out. Brett, what's going on? Which QB through the picks? Not sure. They didn't announce it, and I think that's one thing to definitely pay attention to because we get the positive stats with the touchdowns and the yards and the completions, but they're not releasing the information on the interception. So we don't know exactly on that, but definitely I think that's going to be something to pay attention to, especially the second scrimmage later this week, because look, everybody can, if you throw a pick, you understand it, but if it piles up in the second scrimmage, I think that's something to definitely look into. And I definitely will try to get that information to you. Because once again, you start doing this multiple times, you're starting to worry if it's a one-time thing. Interceptions do happen. So definitely something. It's a great question. So we got I'm looking at about 7 minutes still left in this. Just kind of a quick stream here, a live stream. Benjamin, yeah, I'm glad you're excited about Avonte. It sounds like he's doing great, and it's not just that he had an interception one day or. One day he had a good practice. Look, his name keeps coming up, and I feel like if you guys watch those 10 takeaway videos I feel like I'm always writing Avonte's name down because his name always pops up from whoever's talking. So it's great that he's having multiple good days. I think that's the thing to be most excited about. Okay, Brett, who is receiving most first-team starts? I think it's kind of similar what it's been. First off, D. Wiggins has not been out there the entire spring. He's been out there lately, but just, he wasn't out there for a bit. But yeah, Mike Harley's still up there. Mark Pope still getting those reps. Charleston Rambo is up there as well. And then they're sprinkling. They want to get those new guys as much work as possible. But I think not just necessarily about first team reps. I think maybe it would matter a little bit more if De'Eric was out there. But because you've got the young quarterbacks, it kind of is just a little bit different in that, yes, you have the offensive line will be similar, but I think the first team reps, second team reps is not as big of a deal because of the quarterback situation. The way it would be is if De'Eric was out there, but certainly we'll see. It's all about the U. I want to answer this because I've watched almost every single Gonzaga game this year. I told people early on, I thought right at the beginning of the year, I watched most of our games last year. I just watched most of the Gonzaga games, but I thought they had a chance. I really did think they were going to go undefeated. So I just really like their team. Big thing about Gonzaga, you guys are seeing it, but just their balance is great. But the big thing is, all those guys, the way they share the ball, a lot of those guys, what makes them so dangerous is a lot of those guys would be the best player on the opposition. So they've got like at least the three best players on the court at most times. And then Joel, usually that 4 spot does well, and you're seeing him do well in the tournament. So yeah, I got Gonzaga. I have seen Baylor a few times throughout the year. And Butler's certainly amazing, but it should be a good game. That's why I want to wrap this up. I want to make sure you guys get to it as well. I want to watch the game tonight. So, okay, let's get to a few more questions. Once again, I hate to just keep reminding myself, but just if you're jumping on now, and this is going to be once we wrap this up, but if you have comments or questions that you want me to ask the quarterbacks tomorrow when they're available to the media, or even questions to Manny Diaz, like I saw earlier with DeAndre Johnson, drop in the comments either on the chat right now or in the comments on the video. I'll go back and look at them and definitely try to get your questions answered. We'll post the videos and then write articles on InsideTheU.com. So definitely do that. Okay, let's get this. About 5 more minutes. Let's knock this out. Daniel, what's going on? Hope we got to hold on to the running backs. That's a position I didn't mention earlier about transfers. I just jumped to receivers, but I think that's one to watch for. And again, nobody's talking about it. You don't know who it's going to be. But if Rhett Lashley sticks to it, what he said earlier this spring about wanting a feature back, they don't want to share carries. Who's going to – it definitely – you could see one of those guys leaving if they don't feel like they're going to be the starter. They don't want to take a back seat. You could see one of those guys moving on to maybe a different situation. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't even know who of the 3. I would just it's just something to watch for because, at the exit interviews at the end of spring, they might say, look, hey, we're going to go this route. Maybe it's in your best interest to look elsewhere. You don't know. It's definitely something to watch for. But in saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 were back as well. So Sports Shy, oh, glad you're here, man. Yeah, what's up? I know you always pop on these streams, so good to see you here. And John Futch as well. Any news on Jeremiah Payton? I asked Coach about Jeremiah. Maybe it was the last time he talked, but and it just at that point, he felt like at that point he was someone that they wanted to get back out there at some point this spring. They didn't rule him out all spring, but haven't heard anything about him yet. Again, 6 practices left, so I'll see if we can get an answer on that maybe tomorrow. But I do think that DeAndre Johnson question and the way it works, we try to squeeze it. You get one question, maybe you get a follow-up. But yeah, I'll try to get an answer for you on Jeremiah soon. What else do we got here? Offensive line. Yeah, Jung, maybe offensive line move on, but I don't think it's going to be any of those top guys. But we'll see. Once again, if the coaching staff really feels like they know who they want to go with, you never know how people are going to react. Anthony Collier's here. Great to see you here as well. Any previous players helping out the current players? I've not heard that. It's not to say it's not happening, and I think that's one of the things that's a little, I don't want to say frustrating. It just is what it is. With us, all the reporters, not just us, but all of the reporters just not being able to be out there at spring, because those are things that we, just in previous springs, I would always, being out there all the time, you look around and you're like, oh, this former guy's here either working out, training, or just hanging out on the sidelines of practice. So not being able to find that out and just have that information is a little bit difficult, but definitely if I hear anything, I'll pass it on. Okay, the last couple of minutes, let's get a couple more questions in here before we wrap this up. Once again, if you guys are interested in supporting the channel with the merchandise, the $5 off promo code is QB5 off, and you can find the shirts and merchandise below of this video. So yeah, Sean, I think 2 should be our feature back. He has elite talent. I mentioned this on the Inside the U podcast. It just seems like to me that Don Chaney Jr. is kind of emerging, and it looks like he's going to have that chance to really be that feature back. And if I were to predict or guess, I think he's going to be the guy. I see it the way you do. Okay, Brett, if TVD was to start versus Alabama and somehow win, no, if De'Aaron King is healthy, he will start. I don't see another scenario. So I know what you're saying, and definitely, but I just think that, yeah, I think it's De'Aaron's team. Trey Smith, glad you're here. Maybe this will be the last question here. Wrap this thing up. Do you know the depth chart for strikers? Chase already got an interception in scrimmage. Yes, Chase did well. That's a good sign. Definitely looking for Chase to continue to emerge. I think that striker position is just one that takes a little bit of time in terms of learning the exact role, the playbook. There's a lot that goes into it. You got to have a different skill set in terms of being able to tackle and cover. I think it's Gilbert Fryerson's job. I do know they like Keontre Smith. I think that they'll still get Keontre in there at times, and I think Chase Smith is right there. I do like Chase Smith's ability. I like his upside, and I think he's got a chance to, be that next starting striker. I just don't think it's going to happen this year if those 2 other guys remain healthy. Okay, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Yeah, that weak side linebacker. Yeah, it's just a different, just the way it works. And weak side linebacker is certainly a position to watch for in terms of what Sam Brooks. Can Avery Huff really have a strong end of the spring? Because, heard good things about him from Jonathan Patke. He's a guy not just that he's athletic. I apologize. Not just that he's athletic and can run, but he's starting to understand the defense a little bit better. Thought that was a good sign from the first scrimmage, so look for Avery. We'll see how he does to end this thing out. So, okay, I'm going to wrap this thing up. But definitely, once again, I appreciate everybody for watching, not just jumping on this live stream, but all the videos, kind of some new features on Inside the U on the channel. If you haven't yet, hit that like button. We're getting really close to 12,000 subscribers. Let's go ahead and knock that out. It's incredible how much support over the past year. I talked about the promo code. So definitely, once again, if you just jumped on late, all 3 quarterbacks talking to the media tomorrow. Check out videos, interviews, articles, and everything. I'm very curious to see what all 3 of them have to say about how the spring is going. And then obviously Coach Manny Diaz is talking as well. So thanks everybody. Be curious to see if Gonzaga can pull this thing out, and should be a great game. These are the best 2 teams. It's been the best 2 teams all season long. Should be a great game tonight. Okay, thanks again. Thanks for jumping on, and take care.